Welcome to the Produce Moms Podcast, where we believe there is a produce mom in all of us. I'm Lori Taylor, founder and CEO of the Produce Moms. For 10 years, I sold fresh produce to over 300 grocery stores in the U.S. And today, my team and I are fully focused on inspiring people to eat more fruits and vegetables. This show is just one of the ways that we hope to inspire you and your family to eat more produce and live a better life. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, join our community of almost 40,000 in all 50 states and over 30 countries by visiting theproducemoms.com/subscribe. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks for being here. Enjoy today's show. Welcome back, everyone. This is the Produce Moms Podcast, and my name is Lori Taylor. As always, it's the best to host this show because I get to bring on the best people in the world, and we are always dedicated to showcasing and spotlighting folks who are making the world a better place through their careers, and specifically people that are dedicated to the fresh produce supply chain, helping consumers like us understand the way that food is grown and where it's sourced from, increasing that consumer transparency. And at the end of the day, driving the sales and consumption of fresh produce. That's what this show is all about. And today's guest is Nick Carter. Nick is the co-founder and CEO of Market Wagon. This is an online marketplace that connects food consumers directly with local farmers and artisans. And Nick and I are going to have a blast of a time just, on today's show because I love talking to founders. You all know that, the entrepreneurial side of me loves to connect with fellow founders and entrepreneurs. And Nick is no exception to that. He actually started his first business at the age of 16. And in the 2 decades since then, he has founded or co-founded over half a dozen companies in technology and food sectors. He is a fourth generation Indiana farmer. He is passionate about using innovation to reconnect agra and culture. So agribusiness, agriculture, and really we're just dividing that term, agriculture, agra and culture. We're finding that common thread here through Market Wagon. And he is the author. He's a published author. His book is titled More Than a Mile, What America Needs from Local Food. Nick, this is going to be an incredible episode. I am so excited to meet you. I don't know how it's taken, over 140 some episodes for me to actually connect with you because we are both from Indiana and our passions are right in line. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks for having me. I love talking about food.
Yes. And so before we get started, say hello to our guests, tell them anything about you would like about your background. I have 100 questions about your incredible entrepreneurial journey, but please say hello and introduce yourself.
Well, hello. It's really a pleasure to be here and to talk with you about, food and healthy, fresh produce and where we can get it. And thanks for the introduction. The fun part about that intro is we always like to tell our highlight reel, founder of over half a dozen companies. And that's not inaccurate. It's just that I don't list the ones that failed. That's the life of a founder, right? We get good at this. We get good at this by being bad at this for a while. So I'm really happy to be where I'm at today, though.
Yes. And Market Wagon is we're going to definitely dive into it as we discuss today. But let's talk first, how you use those failures and those past experiences, your entrepreneurial, 2 decades of being an entrepreneur. How did that shape where you are today with Market Wagon?
Well, it's interesting you asked that directly, right? So prior to Market Wagon, I had done a startup called Husk, and it's one of the biggest failures in my repertoire. We had what seemed like success on the surface. The idea was to get local food, again, help our local farmers, build a community of local suppliers, and get those into grocery stores. And we did that. But in the end of the day, what we started to find out was these grocery stores didn't want us there. They don't actually want to fundamentally change the way they source food. They just wanted to be able to have a few local items they could put on a marquee somewhere. And so out of the failure of Husk, the idea for Market Wagon was born. We realized we're going to have to own the whole connection all the way to the consumer we can't trust that, just getting it onto a grocery store shelf. And so that's where Market Wagon came from.
I'll tell you what, we should have an entire episode really dedicated to what it takes to get a product on a grocery store shelf. Really, any section of the grocery store, it's extraordinarily hard.
Right.
And yes. And so as you're saying that, it's like, yeah, and it's very price driven. And it's not really something that one little intervention can change. I mean, it's the food economy, the farming economy, the food retail, economy, all of those are very complex. And at the end of the day, I mean, are we going to change the retail price of food at mass grocery, big box grocery? I don't think that that's necessarily the answer. I don't know, but I love what you've developed, because I think that what you've developed is a home run in Market Wagon. I love it. Yeah. And so let's dive into that. Like, when did it start? I love that it was a child of a failure. Many entrepreneurs are smiling at that. But tell us more about how it began.
Well, it was the idea came about in around November, December of 2015. And we had our first orders the very first week of January 2016. And there were 12 of them. 12 customers ordered. It was a click and collect, which means that customers ordered online and came and picked up. There was about 30 products in the marketplace, and we just thought that was amazing. It was so much fun. We introduced home delivery about 5 months later because customers, needed it, required it. And today we're in 24 locations, soon to be 50, with over 1,000 vendors on the marketplace, tens of thousands of products, and tens of thousands of customers. And it's a blast.
Yeah. So this is amazing growth, and it all occurred within about 5 years' time. Did you say it all started at,
it all started
late 2015. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Amazing. Okay. So I'm so inspired by this. And I love that you remember it was 12 orders on that very first click and collect. It's got to feel good to look at where you're at now. Help our folks that are with us today really understand exactly what Market Wagon is. I mean, so yes, it's obviously an online marketplace, a direct to consumer portal where you can go and buy, specific foods from vetted artisans and farmers, but you can explain this better than I can. So please share with folks what it's all about. What's the end-to-end consumer journey when someone visits marketwagon.com?
Yeah. You've got the idea, right? I mean, we call it an online farmers market, and there's so much of that we can take for granted. So you mentioned it's direct to consumers. So just like if you were walking the booths of a farmer's market, there might be 2 different booths there that you could go buy produce at. There's probably more than 2. And you can, on Market Wagon, you can choose the vendors you're buying from. You can also have a conversation with them, just like you would walk up to a booth and you would maybe talk to the farmer who's behind the table about how they grow their produce or what they're growing next or what's coming next week. You can have chats on marketwagon.com with the producers. So you're building this direct connection.
Wow.
And
so you actually have a forum. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I got to stop you there, because that is a huge point of differentiation, is the fact that there is a communications forum within Market Wagon between the shopper or the end consumer and the actual food producer. Yeah.
Yeah. We have, this comes up sometimes. We get farmers will ask, hey, I want to sell you my eggs. And it's like, well, we don't actually buy eggs. I want to sell you my cucumbers. Well, we're not the ones you need to sell to. You can get on our platform, and then you're selling to the end consumer, and you're going to hear from them. They're going to hear from you. They can follow you. So you can follow your favorite farmers, and then you can receive updates from them. We're building a community.
Wow.
Because that connection is key.
And that's what food is all about, Nick. I mean, I know I don't have to tell you that, but it is culture. And that's why your tagline, or one of the remarks that we shared in the intro, that reconnect of agra and culture.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been this massive disconnection over the last 20 to 30 years, or maybe a little longer. We call it the industrial food complex, when we industrialized food. and we made food just this consumer good that you manufactured somewhere out there. Over there it's made, and then here I buy it, and then I just consume the calories. And that's really all food. It was nothing different than a radio or a color TV. It's just a consumer good. Well, I think we didn't understand what we were losing, because food is so much more than just nutrients and calories. It's actually the fabric that holds together social constructs. I mean, so much socialization takes place around food. So much community is built around food. And we lost that and didn't know it. And we're trying to restore it.
Yep. I love it. And you're doing a great job. And obviously we're dedicated to that too at the Produce Moms. Every farmer we work with, we're working with them because they are committed to that level of transparency, and they want a tighter connection with the end consumer. And that's where my business has become a solution for them. But this is amazing, like what you're describing. So keep going. So we've covered the forum and how it's connecting folks with the culture, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. So what can people expect? Like, what all do you have to offer? And maybe more importantly, like, what did you start with and where are you at today? Because you shared some pretty impressive stats with how many product lines and farmers and artisans you represent.
Yeah, you can find anything on Market Wagon beyond. We have produce, of course. There's meat, dairy, eggs, prepared foods, baked goods, snack foods. Anything that somebody local can create is going to be on Market Wagon. And we strive for local, and that's not just in geolocation, right? I mean, what's your mileage radius from where we are? But we handle that as well, because people have to actually appear with their food in our facility and fulfill the orders. So you have to be local to us geographically. But in order to be on Market Wagon, you also have to participate in the online communication. So we consider local also to mean your kind of proximity relationally to the farmer. Can you actually know them? Can you know this person or the people that are involved in the production of this food? If it's a giant factory, the answer is no, right? Mm-hmm. So it's artisan baked goods and things like that, where you can know the person who's behind it. And one of the things that happened over the last year as COVID has become just this watershed moment in food and so much about American culture.
Sure.
Chefs were hurt particularly hard as well. So we've really redoubled our efforts to enable the chefs, restaurateurs to convert some of their menu items into heat and eat, like a grocery would be, whether they freeze it or package it in some way and send it home, or build kits and recipes. So our meal kits and meals and entrees and snacks and prepared foods are really starting to grow on Market Wagon too. Yeah,
that's so admirable. And one way that I've enjoyed your platform, or your community, I should say, is by buying some of those famous Santorini Greek potatoes in the heat and eat. And very glad that I can get those through Market Wagon. And Nick, so where are you? Like, what cities are you in? Who has access to this platform or this community? I keep saying platform. It's a community, folks.
It is. It's a community where you can also happen to buy food. And we are currently, I don't even think I could list them all off the top of my head. This seems like a pop quiz, but we stretch from Knoxville to Grand Rapids, and from Harrisburg, PA to Eastern Iowa, and everywhere in between. And that, even as I say that sounds like a huge geographic expanse from where we came from. And it is.
12 orders. I'm assuming somewhere in Indiana was the pickup.
Right. 44 million people right now in the US have access to delivery from Market Wagon. But our goal is to be coast to coast within the next couple of years. So that's really what we're trying to do is everywhere we've gone. We've never gone anywhere in the US and said, I think we could open a Market Wagon hub here, and had people say, no, I don't think we need that. Everywhere we go, we're just met with this massive reception, because more and more shopping is going online. More and more people have a need to stay home and not visit the grocery store as often, whether it's for health reasons or just lifestyle or their schedule. And so that leaves all of those shoppers kind of unable to support their local farmers and producers because they can't physically go walk the booth of a farmer's market on a Saturday morning to buy their groceries. That just doesn't fit everybody's lifestyle. So we're now kind of democratizing local food. Anybody can get this. Anybody can shop this way, and we can deliver it to the door.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love it. And I think that it's so progressive. Like I want to say it's the future, but it's not. It's the here and now. Thanks
Isn't
to
it
you,
amazing
Nick.
how
I love
progressive
it.
sometimes is something that we forgot 100 years ago, right? The most progressive idea is something that we abandoned a century ago. And now we're going, I might want that back. And sure enough, we do. We want it back.
We do. And we have access to that real-time communication and all the tools to make it feasible. So, let's dive deeper into how you feel your community and Market Wagon has really solved some issues within agriculture or the food supply chain or, consumer habits in the United States. But I'd just love to hear, I always like to ask founders, how are you a solution or how are you solving problems?
Well, it boils down to that market access. So if you talk to any Midwestern farmer, they're growing corn and soybeans these days, and they're not making money at it. And if you would say, well, then why are you still doing that? The answer is, what else can I grow? They've evolved their farms for decades toward this monolithic sort of production, and suddenly the market's not there. It turns out the world doesn't need us to overproduce corn year after year after year with nothing to do with it. So, and I am a farmer, and I've watched my own family farm go through that transition and nearly die. We were on the brink of bankruptcy through the industrialization of food. And if you say to any farmer like that, you go, well, look, you can make a better income, higher margins. It'd be smarter to produce cucumbers or carrots, or you pick it, right? And the first thing they're going to say is, great, but where do I sell it? Because there's not a market. It's not like I can haul this stuff to an open market where it's guaranteed to sell, which is the case with corn and soybeans. The one good thing about that is there's this establishment of the Chicago Board of Trade and a mercantile exchange in the U.S. that allowed us to know that there was always going to be a liquidity option, meaning you can always sell your grains if you grew grains that were a part of the commodity index. So that's why all of our farms specialized into corn, soybeans, wheat, a little bit of barley, canola, depending on where you're at. So they specialized into these things because they were guaranteed to sell it. And that's kind of the hardest part, is finding a marketplace. So they all gradually just grew these what we call monoculture, just growing one thing over and over and over again. And so one of the things that I'm passionate about is, I don't think that every farmer needs to grow produce. I don't think that is actually the solution. We don't want monoculture. We don't want every farm to look the same. What we need is options. And the only way to give them options is for there to be market access. They have to be able to look at the acreage they have and say to themselves, I've got, based on the soil makeup, the soil tests, my pH level here, is it a sandy soil? Is it a loam? Whatever it is, I could grow potatoes really well, or I could grow carrots, or I could grow cucumbers, or I could grow tomatoes, or I have access, whatever it is. If they have the option to grow it, in order to have the option to grow it, they have to have a place to sell it. There has to be a place where they know that they can move these things to market. And so that's what Market Wagon is creating at the end of the day, is market access that gives farmers the ability to make smart decisions about how to use the land that they are stewarding. It's not theirs, they're stewarding it, right? And to use it in a way that's the most productive for the US, the most productive for the people that they're serving, the most nutritious, and the best for the environment, the best for the soils. Farmers want to be able to make those decisions. They just don't have the freedom without market access. They can kind of only grow what the market will buy. And that's a little sad.
Yeah. Yeah. And your community, your market access through Market Wagon has really, you have local farmers in each and every one of those markets. So you have local farmers that you have introduced. You said 44 million people have access to Market Wagon.
Yeah. And
all 44 million of those people have local farmer access.
Yep, exactly. Because wherever we are at, it's a different supply chain. When you go shop Market Wagon St. Louis,
that's right,
it's a whole different set of farmers, chefs, restaurateurs, food producers than when you shop Market Wagon Kansas City. It's a different supply chain everywhere because it's that local community's farmers and artisans.
I love that. So Nick, you've solved a big problem. I mean, the market access, you've solved a big problem for the supply chain, but oh my goodness, how simple have you made this for moms like me to source local food and keep their food dollars local?
Yeah, we have to make it as easy to buy local food as it is to buy the industrial stuff. And that's what we're working to do.
Yes. So I know I'm not the only person right now who's thinking, okay, I want to load up my order in my cart right now on Market Wagon, but how do people get started? I mean, you already reach a massive amount of the American population with this community at Market Wagon. How do people who have access to it right now get started? And what do you want to say to those folks who don't have access yet?
Well, you can go to marketwagon.com, and there you can just type in your zip code, and it'll tell you whether we deliver to you right now or not. And if we don't yet, the answer to that is pretty simple. It'll show you an option to be able to sign up to be notified when we will, because we will. We're coming. Wherever you're at, we're coming. And if you have delivery in your area, then shopping is pretty easy. It's just browsing online. You can shop by category. You can search for products. Some people on their very first visit, and it's a little overwhelming to know which farm maybe I want to buy from or what products I want to try. There's a market sampler basket. You can just look at that. It finds the most popular items in the market over the last couple of weeks, and you can add them all to your cart with one click. Or you can shop around and start browsing through the different farms. If you know local farms that you really want to be able to support, then you can shop for them by name. And we deliver once a week. They're usually Tuesdays or Thursdays. So you're going to find that there's going to be an order cutoff. You want to get your order in before that cutoff. And then the deliveries will all be batched together. All the farmers will be notified of what you bought, and your stuff will arrive on the next delivery day.
I love that. Tuesdays or Thursdays, right after the weekend and right before. That's perfect. That's perfect. So, wow. I mean, that's all I've got to say is, wow. How did I not already know you and your story? I mean, I knew that I liked Market Wagon, and I knew that there was this great Indiana founder, but oh my goodness, Nick. And I do remember Husk. I remember Husk. I didn't realize that it was necessarily a failure, but I guess I don't see it anymore. And now it's like, wow, it's so much better now. This is amazing. And
yeah.
Nick, thank you for what you do. I mean, I said it at the top of the show. We try to spotlight people who are changing the world, and you're doing just that. There are so many beneficiaries here, from the farmers to the consumers to the environment. I mean, it's really a brilliant, brilliant thing that you have started and grown, and in such an impressive timeline too. I still can't get over what it must feel like for you to look back on that day in 2015 with 12 customers to where you're at today.
Yeah, it was, it's been quite a ride, and I'm just really grateful, right? It's something that I've been passionate to do. It's, for me personally, serving the farmers is why I'm in this. And to know that the community, the shoppers were behind it, right? And that they've grown with us. So the customers who are out there who have made a conscious decision to say, this is how I'm going to shop now, they're the ones that are transforming the lives of farmers, not me. I'm just making it possible. So I'm grateful for them.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, we always say at the Produce Moms, the farmers, the growers, that's our primary stakeholder, and the moms too. But really, if we're not a good steward to the growers and sharing that transparent access through our information platform in our community, are we really serving our consumer stakeholder? No, it really does start with the farmer and the grower. Nick, with that, I just have to say thank you. I mean, I'm so glad you came on our show. I'm so glad that you have started this brilliant model. I mean, I really do think that, I said it previously, this isn't the future, this is the here and now, but wow, it's so amazing. It's a progressive, innovative, unlike anything I've ever seen or heard of in all the time that I've spent in this industry and with farmers and artisans. So kudos and best days ahead. I just know it. And with that, you get the final word and the closing thoughts and final goodbye to our listeners today.
Well, closing thoughts. There's two challenges I always like to give people. One is to ask questions. It's just become too easy to read a label or read a claim and think that that's the truth about food. And the people who actually have produced your food. So if you go on Market Wagon, what I would tell you to do is actually go and engage some of the producers about what they've produced. Ask them how they did it. Ask them if they use chemicals. Ask them if they use any synthetic fertilizers. They love to talk about what they do. And ask the people, build a relationship. Don't just look for a tag or a label or an emblem. And the second thing, and this is going to sound kind of funny, but I love to encourage people to try and grow food. I don't care if it's just a pot of cilantro on your apartment balcony. Whatever you have the ability to do, try and grow something edible that you're going to use in your own production, because when you do, you'll find out that it's really hard. And odds are you might fail at it. You might come home and have a completely dead plant, or it might taste horrible, or it might just not turn out the way that you wanted it to do. And then all of a sudden you'll realize how grateful you are for farmers and the work that they put in and the risk that they take to feed us every day. So ask farmers how they're doing what they're doing, and try on a small scale to do it yourself so that you can just gain that appreciation for what it really means to produce food, because it's a miracle that we don't starve to death.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Produce Moms Podcast. If you or someone you know would like to be a featured guest, just send an email to Lori@theproducemoms.com. We know there is a produce mom in you because there's a produce mom in all of us. Join our community on Facebook and all social platforms. Help us change the way America eats. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.